we've talked about slope already. And we, anyone remember the letter we use for slope? M. Does anyone remember why we think it's the letter M? Yeah? That's right. It's like the French word for slope starts with an M, and they're the ones who popularized this type of math a couple hundred years ago. So we talked about how the slope was the rise, how much it goes up and down, over the run, how much it goes left and right. And we talked about the effects, and we watched videos of what happens when there's too much rise and not enough run. And then we figured out how we can sit there and count it out. Well, there's a way that you can find the slope if you don't have a graph. So it's just going to tell us the names of two of the points, and we're going to find the slope without making a graph. Let me explain what it's going to be like. So we'll do an example over here. We still have some more we need to talk about with slope, but we'll start the example so you can kind of get an idea. We're going to say that a line goes through, and we're going to write this out the first time, and then I'm not going to like rewrite out all of these instructions every time, but it's going to say this: a line goes through, and then I'm going to give you 2 points. So it'll go through like 8, 2, and 2, 0. And then we are going to find the slope of the line. So what you're not going to do, I'm going to draw in red here what you're not going to do. What you're not going to do is what we did last time. Last time what they had is they had like these all graphed out. We'd have a dotted 8, 2. Oops, I just did 8, 2 backwards. That's embarrassing. A dotted 8, 2. And then a dot at 2, 0. And then a big long line. And then you guys sat there and drew in the rise and the run, and you figured it out. You could do that, but we're not going to be doing this. We're going to find the slope without making a graph. And it is useful, like when you get into algebra, to be able to find slopes without making a graph, because those take a while to do. And it's good to have other ways to do that. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to write some notes on how to do this. We also called slope. The slope is really the change in how much it goes up and down. On the graph, which letter talks about up and down? Which line, which axis goes up and down? Does the X?
The Y.
The Y axis does. So the rise, we can say that it's a change in how much it goes up and down, or a change in the Y over the change in how much it goes left and right, or a change in the X. We've already talked about how to measure change in math. Which operation measures change? Do you guys remember which operation? Adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Which one measures change? Yeah, subtraction measures change, right? You guys good with that? Do you understand that when you subtract things, that's how you'd measure change? Like if you measured how much you grew, right? You would like, you know, where you grew a year ago and then where you grow now.
We need the student council to come to the office at this time. Once again, the middle school student council needs to come to the office. Thank you.
You guys will watch the notes at home, I guess. So I don't know. So if you measure change, right, you'd have the two heights. Hey, yeah, focus. You'd have the two heights, and then if you subtract them together, what's left over is how much you've changed. So sorry for the interruption there, but change is measured with subtraction. So what happens with these points is we have these 2 points here. I'm going to rewrite them out. I don't want you guys to rewrite them out also. 8, 2, 2, 0. Now remember, in these ordered pairs, it goes x and then y. X and then y. So when we say the change in y, we can subtract the 2 y's. And then that's the numerator. And the denominator is we can subtract the 2 x's. This formula, I'm going to highlight it. This is what you're going to be using. Y minus y over x minus x. This is what we're going to be using to do the homework. And then we're going to talk about, we'll do some examples of it, and then we'll talk about some like weird examples that could happen. So when it comes to your work, we're going to write m equals, now let's do the example. We're going to subtract the 2 y's, 2 minus 0 over, and then we're going to subtract the x's. What are the x's? 8 minus 2. And that's it. We're just going to subtract them. 2 minus 0 is 2. 8 minus 2 is 6. And then reduce it. 2 over 6 reduces to 1/3. There's the slope. Now, just to show you, you don't have to do this, but if I graphed it out and counted it out, we would get the same thing. So watch how we do like the rise and the run. If we count it out, watch. Look at the rise is 2. 1, 2. That corresponds with that too. Let's look at the run. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That run of 6 corresponds with that 6. It's the same thing. You're just doing it without graphing. All right. We're going to do some more of those, and we'll see what happens when, like how we can get negative slopes and things like that. So now we're just going to work on more examples. Those aren't very good looking fours. There we go. All right. So you're going to write m equals the y minus the y. What are the y's?
4 and 3.
4 minus 3 over the x's. What are the x's?
10 minus 14.
So then we're going to figure them out. 4 minus 3 is 1. Ooh, 10 minus 14. What's that?
Negative 4.
Negative 4. So this slope, the common way to write this out is negative 1/4. Now, here's one thing for you guys to know. These are all synonyms. Writing negative 1/4, 1 over negative 4, or a negative of 1/4, all three of these mean the same thing. The most common way to write it out is like this, though. So like as an example, you could write like plus a negative 1/4, but that's super confusing. So it's best to just write the negative in front of it and then put 1/4. So that's what it could look like if they're negative number for a negative slope. Let's try another one. Let's see some other weird things that could happen here. We had 4, and then 30, and then 6 and 38. All right. The slope is, what are the y's? No. 30 minus 38. The y's go on top, and the x's go on the bottom. What are the x's? 4 minus 6. Now we start subtracting them. 30 minus 38.
Negative 8.
Negative 8. 4 minus 6. Now let's think about this. If you have a negative divided by a negative, do you guys remember what you get?
Positive.
A positive. So this becomes positive 4 over 1, or if you want to get invited to the cool parties, you just put positive 4. So 4 over 1 and 4 are the same thing. But just know that if it's a negative and another negative, it makes a positive. Yes, Eli. When we're done with our notes. We're almost there. All right. We got 3 other weird answers that could happen, or weird things that could happen. All right, let's do this one. 3, negative 2. Negative 4 and negative 5. Well, let's write this out. What are the y's?
Negative 2, negative 5.
So we would write negative 2 minus negative 5 over 3 minus negative 4. Most students, and I'm going to encourage you, if you can figure it out, will skip this step. And instead of writing negative 2 minus negative 5, what could you write out instead?
3.
Plus negative 2 plus 5. And then this, they could write 3 plus 4. So if you would like to skip this and go right into writing it this way, that's okay. Instead of writing minus negative 5 and then rewriting it out. But now we can sit there and do this. So I want you guys to be careful of those whole double negatives. Negative 2 plus 5, someone already said, that's right, is 3. And then 3 plus 4 is 7. The slope is 3 over 7. So again, if there's a negative, right, if you're writing minus negative 5, it's easier to just write it as plus 5. All right, we got 2 more weird slopes. 7, 3 and 7, 2. All right, y minus y. What are the y's?
3 and 2.
3 minus 2 over the x's. What are the x's?
7 minus
3 minus 2 is 1. 7 minus 7 is 0. 1 is 0ths. That doesn't make any sense. Let's think of this. Remember we say we have the rise over the run? This has a rise. It goes up and down, but it doesn't have a run. It doesn't go left and right. What does that look like? A line that has a rise but no run. What do we say the slope of that is? Undefined. That's right. This is undefined slope. Now we've got one last weird answer. Let's try this one out. Y minus y. What are the y's? 10 minus 10. Over the x's. So what are the x's? Now 10 minus 10 gets 0. And 8 minus 3 gets 5. This one is saying, remember, this is the rise and this is the run. This is a line that does not go up and down, but goes left and right. What do we call that?
0.
0 or no slope. You could write that either way. Now, another way to point this out, why we kind of write it out like this, think about it just as a normal answer. 0/5. That's something that makes sense. 0/5. Right? So imagine you have like 5 pieces of a pie and they're all eaten. There's 0/5 left. You cannot have 5 0ths. That doesn't make any sense. You can't have 1 piece of nothing, much less 5 pieces of nothing. That's another way you can think of it as like undefined. They're saying like 1 0th doesn't make sense. You can't have 1 piece of nothing. Finding the slope, that's what you're going to be doing in your homework. In your work, just made up a bunch of problems. And I'm just going to project them, and it's online for you. you're just going to go through and find the slope of each of those on a separate piece of paper.